All right, all right. Hello, Paradigm Shifters. Woo! Welcome to May 31st, 2022. Yes, and of course, you know this is Transformation Tuesday. And let's take a deep breath in here and bring to mind gratitude and all that we've been transforming in this month of May when our topic was love and the power of love. And I'm so grateful for Paradigm Shifters. So if you're new to this, Paradigm Shifters is a community, a global growing community dedicated to shift and uplift the planet. You know, when I first came that, I'm like, the planet? Yeah, why not? You know, and we do that um, by bringing in guest speakers with tools to help transform. And as of now, this morning, we have 1,439 members who are active in this group from 56 countries. So it started out as an idea, just like anything, and we're growing and growing and growing. And we started in 2020. So without further ado, I want to bring on our guest speaker today. Let's take a deep breath in and yes. Now, Ryan Harris is a new friend of mine, a good friend of mine, and I've been watching him as he's been growing, and I love the fact that he is the Chief Abundance Officer. Who would love to have that title? Chief Abundance Officer at Positive Abundance Design and Development, Positive ADD. Now, you might not have known this, Ryan, but I spent many years in a special ed classroom and with that diagnosis myself with all the kids, and I love it. Positive ADD. You've worked MGM, Mirage Resorts, and Boyd Gaming Corporation, studied at Purdue University. You, the past, lived in Las Vegas, and you're from Palatine, in Illinois. So with that, come on in here, Rel. I'm going to turn this over to you, Ryan, and tell us a little bit about yourself, your why, what you're doing, and the power of love in your life and how you spread it.
I love it, Judy. Well, let me just first start by thanking you for having the idea, listening. Good job, way to listen. In the words of Matt Boggs is Yogi. Great job, way to listen. And I'm honored to be here and honored to be shepherded by the most savviest dream builder, I would say, that I've ever known. The 32 dream builder lives. That is Cal Ripken streak of the Iron Woman, the Iron Lady. So great job, great job. So yeah, and I love that you touched on it. You know, the positive ADD is actually positive add. So in short, it's plus add. So the positive sign, it's more, hey, plus add this, to your awareness. Bring your awareness to, oh, you can also add this. You can also add this. And did you think about this when this idea came to you? Oh, and if you can do that idea, oh, you can also add this. So it's a way of compounding awareness is the intention there. So thank you for the wonderful warm introduction, and the first thing that you ask is, what's the why? And I'll say that for a very long time I simply had the benefit of great mentors, and then I found that coaching and consulting, what I like to call mindset mastery, is how I've adapted the life mastery consultancy. So it starts with your mind, as we all know. Thoughts become things, and my why is specifically, there's a couple whys in there. There's people who can try so very hard and not make their desired results. Yet again, then there's also people who do try so very hard and do succeed at their results, but that's at a cost. Sometimes it's a cost of their health, the cost of their relationships, and the cost of just not knowing that there's an easier way to do things. And so, that spills over into, I'm a very big proponent in justice, equality, inclusion, and that passion, especially when unforeseen forces specifically cause somebody to try harder, and that trying harder doesn't always guarantee success, as we know from Price Pritchard's amazing book U Squared. Sometimes trying harder is actually part of the problem. It is the problem. And that also extends to my passion for inclusion and equality. So sexes, races, religions, like having us all have the equal fair shot. And I think part of that also comes that I'm a Leo, and Leos are infamously known. It's like, hey, I'm enjoying the kingdom. Everybody should enjoy the kingdom, So everybody should just be having the time of their life and smiling. And so that's what my intention is taking my clients' full spectrum success and taking that from possibility to probability, and then probability to predictability, that they will not only line up successes, but enough of those successes will line up into riches in all areas of their life. And then once you reach the point of richness, you then gain this sense of full spectrum wealth. So full spectrum, full abundance consciousness. So that's a little bit of my why. And yeah.
So tell us a little bit about where you're living now, and a little of your story that maybe got you so passionate about the inclusion and diversity. A little bit about that part. Yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So, well, I had an incredible run in the gaming industry, casino industry, doing VIP events, slots, casino, table games, most recently sports betting. And I've been so blessed to have a client that was my former employer. Boyd Gaming actually is now one of my clients, that really helped me transform and start my own business and start my own coaching company. And so when all of this came down, there was a requirement that like nobody could go into any of the offices. So the term digital nomad started becoming more and more prevalent. So I've since, the first year of the pandemic, I was building a house in Mexico with a partner, and we had parted ways. But what was wonderful about that is I found myself with no attachments to any specific location. So I was able to travel all throughout South America, Latin America. I'm currently in Colombia right now, an island called San Andres, which I didn't even know existed until January of this year. So I'm here now, and my dream has been becoming more and more specific. And the time and money freedom. As far as the vocation goes, I say I was really inspired by working in high school with what was presented to me as a sports psychologist, but he was an ex-business professional. His name was Pete Melito, and so he was talking about the mind, body, spirit connection. And what really impacted me was there's something that's known as the yips in sports, and the yips impacts baseball players. It's baseball players specifically, golf. Sometimes in gymnastics, it's known as the twisties. Simone Biles was one of the people who was recently in the news about this. So there's more and more awareness about this. And when I was growing up, even before the days of the internet, there wasn't this wide research. I just knew that like I used to be able to throw a baseball, and then I couldn't. Like then I was just not able to throw a baseball accurately. I was, sometimes throwing it into the crowd, sometimes throwing it 2 feet in front of me. And so the more that you think about that, the more that compounds, and thoughts become things. Then you start worrying, hey, am I going to let the team down again? Am I going to go in front of my classmates, give a presentation, and the introvert in me, is he going to shut down? And so for those people who don't know this, you can research it. It's YIPS, or the twisties. But for those people who don't know about this, imagine yourself walking 2 flights of stairs, down 2 flights of stairs. Halfway through the stairs, you somehow like go into this, you forget how to walk up and down stairs, and then you fall down the stairs. It's going to be painful. And then you ended up falling down a flight of stairs, and then like, I used to know how to walk downstairs. Like this shouldn't be so difficult. Why is this so difficult for me? And there's this mental block that, sometimes can be a paradigm. It can be, it presents itself as a paradigm, or even self-sabotage. Hey, do I deserve this much? Great. And so that becomes devastating when, you would want to be a pro athlete, and then you're all of a sudden feeling like you have this thing that you can't do anymore, which you used to be able to do easily, like walk up and down the stairs. And so I'll touch one more point on this is, imagine now that, you've had that one experience where you fell down the stairs, you forgot how to walk down the stairs for a second. Well, from there, every new time that you go down the stairs, you might recall that memory. Instead of remembering all the times that you've successfully walked up and down the stairs, the one that had the most impact was the one where you suffered pain. And so that was where it left an emotional response. And so where Pete Melito came into my life is 2 years after I had tried to do everything I could, reteach myself how to throw a baseball by myself. He came in and he taught me the power of the mind, and what he was doing for me was leading me through visualizations, meditations, and one of which I was so tuned into and dialed into. It was my pregame warm-up, where in an instant I was able to, through his guidance, trigger my adrenaline at will. So I was like, I'm ready to go lift a car off of a baby or something like now. Like, let me do this. So I'm like, wow, there is something there. I'm like, I want to come back to that. So years later, those success principles were what really launched my career in hospitality and gaming. And then now it almost makes simply perfect sense that, oh, now I'm teaching others how to do this for themselves. So that's a roundabout story.
Oh, that's perfect. That's exactly what I love what you said is, do I deserve this much? Great. And then, poof. Yeah, wow. Thank you so much. So, tell me more. Tell us more. Tell us more. Because I think what you have to say goes back to that time where there was something so painful and scary, like you're losing it. Yeah. And so tell me more about you, and like, were there times even before that you got triggered and scared? Like some examples. I know you're an athlete, were and are, and so tell me more about how that could relate to us, maybe non-athletes, and just period in general, and maybe how that has been happening in the world at large. Hey.
Yeah. I think the number one thing that all of us can relate to, most of us, I'll say, is public speaking. So So it's like, look, I know how to talk, but all of a sudden, if there's a crowd there, how do I forget how to talk? You know, and so there's, you know, sometimes it's called performance anxiety or just different things. And I like to say that my college football coach, he used to say, you know, it wasn't brave language, but he would say, get your mind off your mind. Like, just get your mind off your mind. And you know, like we've learned all these tips and tricks growing up about, hey, you know, picture the audience in their underwear, do like all these like, I'll say cheap tricks, shallow tricks. But then, you know, coming with Mary Morrissey and the Brave Thinking Institute is when you are self-conscious, you are being self-centered, self-absorbed. So the point of the picture your audience in your underwear, you can up level that of saying, don't picture them in their underwear, picture them being so served by your message that you take, you're sacrificing any way that you would feel, and you're putting about how can I make them feel. It's not about me, you know, and that's where it's philosophical and it's physics at the same time. I can prove that this works. So yeah.
Yeah, tell us more.
All right.
Get
Well,
your
yeah.
mind off.
I'm gonna keep going.
No, well, I'm just going to interrupt here because as this day goes on, before this, I was over at the pond across the street, and I was like meditating and doing this, and you know, and a snake went by, and I want to say up until now, the snakes are kind of not. And I made myself get your mind off your mind, be there, be here, and watch. And she slithered there and stopped and looked at me and blah, 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 and like went by. Get your mind off your mind. So yeah, keep going, Ryan. This is good stuff. Keep going.
All right. Yeah. So you know, it's the one thing too. I feel divinely timed was we just came off of that spiritual or strategic immersion, which I think it was actually spiritual immersion where we received the book, The Four Agreements.
Right.
And I wow, the introduction of that book is so amazing and so incredible. Then I read the first chapter through and through, and you know, Mary and the team did an amazing job unpacking that. And then there's things that keep hitting you on deeper and deeper levels as your awareness grows, and being impeccable with your word is the first agreement. And so and your thoughts, you know, it starts with your thoughts. And so when I was growing up, I didn't know the power of positive thinking like I do now. It's not just philosophical, it's physics. It's you know, spirituality meets, you know, there's science and spirituality to back all of these things. And so being impeccable with my word, I could have said, hey, that was a one-time thing. That's not happening now. You know how to, you know, build up your self-talk. You know how to talk to people. You know, the thing about the thing I like, Jerry Seinfeld did a joke of, you know, public speaking, for example, is the number one fear, even above death. Like than most people, like most people would rather die than to give a speech in front of people. And so he's like, and that means that, you know, people would rather be the one in the casket than the one delivering the eulogy. Like that's an interesting thing. And then, so, you know, being impeccable with your word, that again, I literally read this last night, fresh off, fresh out of the book and through me. And so being a soft place for your own self to make mistakes, not labeling people, you know, cursing them effectively. You know, you might not be using curse words, but when you're doing anything besides building that person up and being that person of increase, you are cursing that person. and you're also cursing yourself. There's a whole way of you feeling worse about like you end up feeling worse about somebody or about something you said to somebody, so both of you are hurt in that transaction. There's a story of this daughter. She's 5-6 years old, and her mom comes home. Her mom's had the worst headache, everything like that. The daughter has this beautiful singing voice, and she's singing, she's happy, she's joyful. She doesn't know what's going on with her mom, but her mom has one of those those deep migraines, can't have any noise or anything like that. And so mom, in her human self, says, like, shut up, stop singing, you have an ugly singing voice. It's like just to make her to stop. And there's certain times in life where we don't realize how impactful our words can be. And that's where it's be impeccable with your words. And so that daughter, who could have been a famous singer, never wanted to sing again. Now she has that complex of saying, well, yeah, I've been told that I have an ugly singing voice, nobody wants to hear my voice, when in fact it was simply an unskilled interaction from a parent that didn't know how else to express that they had a really bad headache, really tough day, and really needed quiet. They could have also put earmuffs on, like all the different things. But that's where you can really curse somebody's future by, that self-fulfilling prophecy is what, we also hear about, when if you say you're great, you're going to be great. If you say, if teachers tell students that they're troublemakers, they're bound to fulfill that prophecy. But that's where it's like, don't believe anything that anybody says, except for the greatest possible way that you can build yourself up and have other people partners in believing, paradigm busters, all that great stuff here too. So yeah.
That's so good, and I love that you touched on. Gosh, you just touched on so many things right there, and brought back, like, just going back a little bit about that public speaking. And for me personally, I was cool with speaking in front of middle school kids and all of the teaching every day. Like, yeah, that was good. And when I came out and there were adults and others, there was freeze. And that was it. It's interesting because I think that we come up with those I blocks or like things to be healed. Yes, to be healed.
Yes.
I want to. Here's I got all these notes. I love it.
Wonderful.
I'm taking notes, things I've never heard before. I love it. I wanted to ask you too um, about that word inclusion that you said. That also is a part of my class as far as inclusion for all children and all kids in the school system, and how that was uh, it was part of my work. So tell me about how you got involved or what that word inclusion means to you, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. Well, it's an up level of diversity. It's for me, it's an up level of diversity, diversity and inclusion, or equality and inclusion. I mean, I would love for us to come to the point where we don't see color, we don't see race or anything like that. We might describe somebody that like doesn't look different. That's the interesting thing in being in Latin America. There, like, when I was like, oh wow, there's no like thing that you see in the US of how people are labeled or discrimination, that kind of thing. And then at least it's been my experience, and maybe that's what I've decided to find, what I seek and ye shall find. And so for me, I remember my mom being in human resources, organizational development, and so her role was bringing You heard it here first on the paradigm shifters. I've said this to a couple of people, but I'm literally a child of a child of Edison. So my parents both were working at the Commonwealth Edison company, the energy company in Chicago. And my mom was in HR. My dad is an engineer, electrical, nuclear, professional engineer. And so my mom's role was to bring cultures, sexes, religions all together and towards the common goal. So this was in the late 70s, early 80s, so right about the time where the women's liberation movement was happening. Then it's something that's always stuck with me. Like there's one very impactful book that I read. It was full of case studies for my minor in sociology, but it was gender roles in modern society. And so during this time where I think we still have some room to go here too, but during the time where the women were just coming into the workforce, there was a case study called The Second Shift. So that's like a very very profound title, but what they meant by that is your first shift is your work shift, and after that your second shift is your parent shift. The kids are at school. Who's on second shift duty? And there was a time where it was women who were expected to do that, and probably to some degree, and especially certain cultures, certain locations, all throughout the world, that is still prevalent. Like there's this assumption that this is the woman's job to tend and take care of the kids, and so that's another thing that I really strongly believe in women's empowerment for and people who have quote unquote been labeled as minorities. I'll say immigrants coming to the United States. There's all of these unforeseen cultural things, that cultural wallpaper. I'll just say that you heard it here first too. Like Kirsten Wells coming through. It's like the cultural wallpaper that has just been static, and now it's time to repaint the walls. It's time to tear down what we've known before, and that's where I truly love too is women empowerment. Coming out of the mindset of for minorities, for example, not thinking like a minority. Not thinking like a minority. It's like, look, that might have been your history. That's not how you need to be. If you think of yourself as a minority, if you keep, being impeccable with your word in that way, you are going to keep prophesizing that you will be, oh, well, I'm just a minority. I can't do this because of my, ethnicity, race, gender, sex, religion. And so that's where, striking that balance of saying, look, yes, I hold compassion for what you've gone through that I, as a white male, have not had to think every day. I've not had to live sexism, racism every single day of my life. But it's something that I'm very passionate about, equality and inclusion. And so with that, that's also how we help elevate the entire sector by saying, look, your thoughts, think about who you would be. Oprah is one of the richest people in the world. There's so many outliers. She didn't let her status or her ethnicity hold her back. Like that is many different examples that way. So.
Wow, this is great. We can go on we'll have to have you back for like that whole section. So here's the next question is, if you could give like one specific tool or one tool or idea out there to our paradigm shifters, what would that be? And what idea would you like to impact, a tool or a key phrase or something like that? What
Yes.
would you love? Yeah.
I would keep serving your dream every single day, and then count on the unforeseen forces, like the quantum leap, and then count on the compounded interest. Count on it. Yes, that is something that in working with Kirsten Wells, like she's redefined my thoughts on the matter too. Where I used to think it was better to work out 3 times a week for an hour and a half, but in actuality it's better to do 20 minutes, 25 minutes a day to keep that compounded interest happening. Do something each day, and move towards your dream, and there's a momentum that comes. Even just doing one micro move, many micro moves is the compounded interest of your dream being realized. So yes, and then trust yourself.
Wow, thank you so, so much. Well, what we would love to do right now, Ryan, is to put a blessing on you. And what would you love to have our community or this community hold for you personally to shift and uplift you and your work in the world? What would you love? Anything at all?
um, First thing that's coming to mind is my Colombian citizenship. Yes, before July 15th, 2022.
So it is. All right. All right. So let's put some energy here. Everyone get your energy going. There you go. You ready to catch it? Ready to receive, Ryan?
Ready to receive.
Okay, here you go. Ah, and so it is. Thank you so much. This has been amazing. And I so appreciate you, Ryan, and all of the good and wow, all the passion you have for the world. Thank you so much.
And Judy, thank you for having me on, and for having many others on. I've loved watching these series, and I just love that you followed your heart, your gut, and it's a beautiful platform. It's a beautiful thing that you're doing here. So
Amen. Amen. All right.